Ladies and gentlemen, I have taught all three in one period, and I'm about to do it again. We finished Russia. We're in China. Is that correct?
Yes.
Perfect. So let's do it. Ladies and gentlemen, let's begin. You should have your diagrams out on your desk. It will make things a lot easier. I'm telling you, your 35 question test tomorrow is as many direct comparisons. Mexico does this, but Russia does this. Which of the following is true? As I could possibly do. There's like 7 low-level definitions. The rest are high-level comparisons because you need to know what you know and you need to see what you don't. Here we go. Where did we leave off, Katie? Does anyone know where we left off, Sophia? Where are we? Okay, perfect. So we are in China. We know that it is 2 systems, 1 country. Ladies and gentlemen, that is absolutely important that you know that. The People's Republic of China is the government structure, but the party system of the CCP, or the Chinese Communist Party, is super, super influential. We talked about how the People's Liberation Army has nothing to do with the People's Republic of China, but works for the CCP. So the People's Republic of China couldn't kick out the party if they wanted to because they don't have a military. That's how powerful the CCP is. We know the head of state is the president, 2 terms, 4 years, but Xi Jinping has extended it for the rest of his life. In head of government, you have a premier. You need to know that Russia and China are very similar. The president selects the head of government, but they just switch their names. In Russia, the head of government is what, Jordan? What's the title? That's head of state. In Russia, it's called what? Prime Minister in Russia, and in China, it's premier. That's the only difference between them. Both of them are selected by the president, so the premier or the prime minister is only loyal to who? The president, and that's part of the issue. Okay, the National People's Congress, which is exactly where we left off. The National People's Congress only meets for 2 weeks a year. It's 3,000 people. It is the only thing that people in China vote for. So keep in mind, what is the point of this even existing, Jimmy? What's the L word that they use it for? Legitimacy. That is why the National People's Congress exists, is because it's supposed to give it legitimacy. Who actually crafts the laws if Congress doesn't actually craft the laws? Mr. Clark.
Is it the Politburo?
Politburo, absolutely. The Politburo is actually the one crafting all the laws, and we're going to have a standing committee that oversees that. They're the ones actually doing the work. What system is the Politburo part of? Remember, there's 2 systems, 1 state. What system, Grant?
CCP.
The CCP. The Politburo is part of the CCP. So the CCP crafts the law and then hands it to Congress to pass, in order to make it look like the Congress actually came up with it and did the work because of that legitimacy. The judicial branch, you need to know it's ruled by law, which means what, Sydney? If it's ruled by law, it's what? People can be over the law. Here in the United States, we're what, Sydney? Rule of law, which means everyone is equal. So Xi Jinping does not have to follow the rules like everybody else. With that being said, there is no judicial review in China. Why? Why, Jack?
Because it's not independent.
Okay, I mean, it's not independent, fine, but what's the real reason? Sophia? It's ran by the CCP. The Politburo, who is a major component of the CCP, makes the laws. So why would the CCP, who's really calling all the shots in the People's Republic of China, really go against themselves? They wouldn't, which is why it doesn't exist. You need to know it's a one-party system, and the only party in town is the CCP. Okay, they literally hold elections, but only CCP people win. You need to know one of the biggest problems in China is social activism online. People aren't protesting really in the streets in China, but they are protesting online, and that is a huge problem for China. People want democracy. What is the biggest protest in Chinese history? It happened in 1989 in China. What do you got, Ethan? Tiananmen Square in 1989. It is the largest protest that's ever happened for the People's Republic of China. They're going to kill a bunch of people in the streets. It will stain China's standing in the world. Write it down. It will stain China's reputation in the world because they're literally beating these protesters who want what? What's their big thing that they want, Desmond? They want democracy. They're going to be literally killed in the street. So we are going to transition we're going to transition away from an authoritarian, brutal state into what type of state? It starts with an S. Surveillance state. China is then going to become a surveillance state. There's more cameras in China than anywhere else in the world because they're no longer going to kill you in the streets. They're going to kill you in your homes. And that's nice. There you go. Okay? Interest groups. You need to know that China controls everything. And they even control one thing that no one else controls. And Ian, what is that? Yeah, what does China control that no one else does? The internet. With the Great Wall, they control the internet even though no one else does. They're filtering out everything that their people have access to. Iran can't do it. Russia can't do it. Okay? China is the only one that can, and that's what makes it special. Okay. You need to know that non-governmental organizations are foreign companies who are given access to China to build factories. Okay? Now, this is all going to be stimulated. There are 3 leaders of China that you have to know. I've already talked to you about Mao. He is your communist leader. He's the traditional figure. Does not stimulate the economy. Very stagnant. Not a ton happening except, killing 20 million people casually with the Great Leap Forward and then punishing them all with, what do they punish with? The Cultural Revolution. Then you have Deng Xiaoping. He is going to come on and transform the economy from a state-run agency to a capitalism agency. With that being said, your third person is who? He's still in power today, and who's your third Chinese ruler? Xi Jinping. He's the third one you have to know. There's a couple people in the middle, but they're not as important. So you need to know Mao Zedong. You need to know Deng Xiaoping, and then you need to know Xi Jinping. Okay? So those are your 3 Chinese rulers. You need to know the ethnic cleavages. 90% of your Chinese people are Han descent, which are like your light-skinned Chinese traditional almonds faces. Okay, they have done a ton of ethnic diversity inside of China. However, their cleavages are really based on religious. The Chinese are literally collecting the Uyghurs, okay, and they are killing them because they're Muslim. They have concentration camps out in the Never Eat Saw You All in the West, and that's, see, it always comes in handy. In the West, and that's where they are pulling them together. It's a huge deal. It's happening today. There's Uyghurs dying today. We had a Senate hearing 2 weeks ago about the atrocities being done in China. Your other major issue is that there's a huge divide between rural China and urban China. Beijing happens to be one of the most advanced cities in the world with all of the highest technology. However, there are some villages in the western part of China, in the agricultural part of China, that has 1 telephone and very little electricity. So the discrepancy between both. So much so that most of your agricultural families send their work age people to the cities. It's so bad. It's called a floating population. You need to know that. These migrant movements are happening all the time. It is such a big discrepancy that they have forbidden families from following their parents. So we have huge gaps in our rural and in our urban. You need to know that China has gone from a state-run economy to a mixed economy that now includes special economic zones. These special economic zones are where foreign companies can open manufacturing factories and production factories. Why are countries like the United States, England, France, every country, most countries, all of your industrialized powers, sending business to China? What is the draw to go to China, Luke? No. What is the draw, Sophia? It's cheap labor and cheap products. Okay? So all the raw materials for whatever product you're making, sweatshirts, you can buy really cheap ones in China, like cotton fabrics and stuff like that to make your sweatshirts with. Here in the United States, that cotton fabric is going to cost significantly more because it's American grown, American harvest. Okay? So foreign companies are going to China for cheap labor and cheap raw materials. You need to know that. You need to know that China wants Taiwan. Taiwan is a major focus. Alex, there's 2 reasons why China wants Taiwan. Give me one, please.
Do they have like a lot of technology there?
What type of technology?
Like advanced
And what specific? You're
chips,
correct.
The microchips?
Yes, they're the center of the world's microchips. All of our high-level military technology all come from Taiwan. So the chip that's on our nuclear weapons that tell it when to go off and when to shoot off and all that stuff are all made in. So if China invades Taiwan and stops us from getting access to Taiwan, it literally will crush our entire military and our entire ability to defend ourselves. So would we ever allow that to occur? No. The United States is not going to war over Ukraine and the Russian invasion. We're clearly not. It's been over a year. We will go to war over Taiwan. The tension between China and the United States has never been higher. And this is not hyperbole by Samantha Bennett. This is, if you read the news, people, our Navy, our Air Force, damn it, maybe even Space Force, and our Army are all getting ready to go to war. Because we cannot have China have access to these. Major General here in the United States for the Army says, if necessary, they will blow up the factories for microchips, which means no one in the world will have them. Which means we're literally going to stop our progress, human progress going forward. This is going to frame our next 10 years of life. This, if you're looking for worst case scenario, this is it. And they're playing war games in order to try to figure it out. And every person in this room is affected, especially the young men in the room. If we go to war, you're called up. Now, whether we put boots on the ground is always the biggest decision of the president in person. One of the biggest faux pas that Biden has made, okay, which is like a huge seismic shift, is that when Biden came into office, he said he would put boots on the ground in Taiwan to defend. We have never said that out loud. So that was a huge deal and a huge seismic shift in the relationships between China and the United States. So it is a huge deal. It's a big deal. Okay. Public policy. You need to know that they had a one-child policy. That one-child policy is a failure because it created huge gender gaps. For every one female, there's 23 men. Yeah, so that's going to cause a population problem. Can we agree? Okay, and that has also caused a wealth problem. It has caused a complete aging crisis. It has had huge statistical failures. Foreign policy, you need to know, with China, we are seeing that they are controlling the world economy. We felt the shakes when China shut down for COVID and had huge COVID crises. We felt the pain here in the United States. Remember, we'd go to the shelves and we were looking for items and they weren't there. Even like last year, we were having some of these problems. That is how powerful China is for manufacturing. They are a part of the United Nations. They are a part of the World Trade Organization and World Bank and International Monetary Fund. All of those money organizations are very tired of China. China refuses to engage in the next tier of economic growth. They're supposed to keep progressing forward. They refuse because they're getting better tax breaks at a lower. So these banks have refused to continue moving money to China, which is causing some stagnation in their economy as well. The biggest problem is air pollution. Another major problem for China is air pollution. They did not industrialize until 1953. Because of that, every 100 years is how long it takes for a society to evolve and raise wages, make it more equitable for all people, and actually start addressing climate issues. So they're only 70 years in, which is why they're still one of the leading producers of pollution. Yes, Sophia. That was China. We're moving to Mexico. No, they make enough money now. They don't need them as much. But they're also refusing to keep progressing because it increases how much money they have to pay back depending on what economic tier you are. Mexico. Here we go. Desmond.
Right under uses for this, it says like somewhat cumulative.
Like big picture stuff. Like the West is rural while the East is going to be your major cities, those types of things. Like big picture ideas of what it kind of looks like. Like in Mexico, the north is more industrialized, while the south is all agricultural. In Nigeria, the north is all agricultural, and the south is the urban. Mexico, here we go. You need to know it is a democratic regime. Mexico is democratic. You need to know it is a federal system of government, which means it gets broken down into smaller states. You need to know it has a presidential system. It is very similar to the United States, but it is not the most similar country to the United States. What country is that, Nick? No. Sophia? Nigeria is the most similar. It is very close. The biggest difference between Mexico and the United States is they have term limits for everything. Mexico always has term limits. You should write that down. Nigeria is the absolute closest. Mexico is number 2 to the United States. You need to know that in Mexico they have 6 years for every presidential election. Okay? The legislative branch is bicameral. You have the upper house, which is the Senate. You have the lower house, which is the Chamber of Deputies. Okay? Everything has term limits. With that being said, in Mexico, you have the judicial system. They are in transition. They were dependent, and they're trying to become what, Caesar? They're trying to become independent. So we are starting to see judicial review. Mexico has the early stages of judicial review. It takes a very strong organization to be able to check another one. That is why it doesn't quite 100% exist, why it's in transition. You need to know that Mexico is code of law. Okay, which means what? Code of law means what, Jake? Code of law, what does it mean? What country uses code of law? The U.S., so everyone is Equal. Code by law is rule by law. Oh my God, I'm sorry. Rule by law. That would be why you're confused. And I'm so sorry, Jay. Rule by law is everyone is. Rule of. Everyone's equal. Rule by law means. There you go. I'm so sorry for confusing you, Jay. That was my fault. What? I know I see code of law there. I'm aware. Okay, so when we talk about rule by law, Mexico is rule of law. The problem is who keeps interfering with the judicial system? Who keeps interfering in it in Mexico, Brennan? No, it is not the mafia. It is who, Alice? They don't have mafia in Mexico. They have what? No, there's no militia. What do you got, Britt? Cartels. Ladies and gentlemen, words matter. It has to be cartels. If you say mafia, that's going to be more like Russia. So you wouldn't score the point. No, that's fine. The words matter. So if you say mafia for Mexico, will not score. They're very similar. Mafia is for Russia. So keep that in mind. Your cartels are interfering with the lower level stuff. So is the Mexican government corrupt? No. It just happens to have a lot of corruption inside. That's the difference. Okay, the hardest part about Mexico is the political parties. If you look at the back of your diagram, the political parties are the worst part, which is why we put a ton of stuff in there. I'm going to try to simplify it as much as I possibly can and keep it simple, stupid, and only make you learn two. Yes? Perfect. The first one that you absolutely have to know is PRI, which is the Institution of a Revolutionary Party. It is the oldest, and it is the longest ruling, right, Caesar? Yeah. So, with that being said, they are going to be in power from 1939 to 2000. They are going to lose the 2000 election, and that transforms Mexico forever. Put a big star. They lose the 2000 election. The good thing is in APComp, there's not many dates you have to know, and most of the dates are right next to each other. The most important year in Mexico for APComp is what, Emerson? 2000. Because PRI loses their election. In Russia, what year is the most important year? Yeltsin leaves office and starts an authoritarian rule. What year? It's not 2000. It's what, Ford? Nope, it's not 91 because he's the first president post USSR. Jimmy? 1999. Who comes into power in Russia in 2000, Jimmy? Putin. 1999 or the year 2000 is the only numbers you need to guess on APComp. Guess what year the fourth Republic of Nigeria is created in? You got 2 years to pick from. You got 50-50 shot. Which one is it, Brooklyn? 1999 is when the fourth Republic of Nigeria is created. So for APComp, you got 2 years. You got a 50-50 shot. Is it 1999 or the year 2000? Okay, here we go. When we talk about Mexican political parties, so the election of 2000 ends the PRI. It will, for the first time, put the PRD party in power. The PRD party. I'm going to do 3 parties because I'm feeling confident. Let's go. Here we go. So, the PRD, or the Party of Democratic Revolution, will win the 2000 election. They fracture over election fraud claims, which weren't true, and create Morena. Okay, Morena, whatever it is. That is the present ruling party in Mexico. PRI is the traditional one that's been in power the longest and loses in 2000. They lose to the PRD, or the Party of Democratic Revolution. They fracture, and Morena is who is ruling Mexico today. Okay, interest groups. Yes?
When does Morena come in power?
They're going to come into power in like 2009. Okay. Everything's kind of like usually about 10 years apart. If it's not 1999 or 2000, it's usually right around the 10-year mark. Here we go. All right. You need to know that post 2000, freedom of the press has increased dramatically. Okay? So, freedom of the press has increased dramatically. So, what political party was suppressing freedom of the press, Nick? PRI. Who is also ushering in all the cartels and allowing them to rise, Nick? PRI. So, a lot of the corruption is genuinely caused by PRI. Okay? All of your other two, PRD and your Morena, are anti-corruption. Since 2000, there is more media transparency. Since 2000, we have a new problem, the Zapatistas. Okay? There's really like 3 Spanish words that you need to know for your exam. Zapatistas are one. Okay? Now, before I can really explain this, we need to talk about another Spanish word, maquiladora. Now, in Mexico, where is it more urban? To the north or the south, Jordan? North. Why the north have all the factories? Because it's close to what? The U.S. So all the factories in the north. So if the north has the factories, what's down south? Agriculture. Okay? So what is going to happen? The factories in Mexico are called maquiladoras. They're all created because of what treaty? What treaty creates them? Grant. What treaty? North American Free Trade Agreement. You have to know it. Jimmy, let's go. You have to know it. NAFTA. This is your last lecture in this room ever in your life, Jimmy. No, that's not true. You have AP World next week. Last Gov one. Okay. I'm going to continue with this. I'm just going to keep going. Okay. NAFTA, North Atlantic Treaty Organization between Mexico, U.S., and Canada. You need to know that Mexico benefits the most, and because of that, they're going to build the maquiladora factories. And they build them to the north because most of the goods are going to the United States. It is going to make the north or the south really wealthy, Brooklyn. The north. So, the Zapatistas. This is where this conflict comes in. The Zapatistas are in the south. They're pissed because all of the government money is going to the north because of the NAFTA, because of the maquiladora factories. So they are going to create their own free state inside Mexico. And that's the Zapatista Rebellion. They have their own little territory that has guards standing outside that no Mexican government officials can go inside. Because they're pissed that all government money was going to the north and they were forgetting the south. Now, who lives in the south? What ethnicity of people? The indigenous are in the south of Mexico, while the north is mostly your mestizos. So there's an ethnic component as well as an economic component. Perfect. Crushing it. You need to know they're a mixed economy. Desmond, what's up?
Are the Zapatistas recognized as like an actual...
No, they're a rogue government. You need to know that they are a mixed economy, which means they have both private companies and state-run companies. Pemex is their oil company. They are a rentier state, absolutely. Okay, you need to know, because of the year 2000's election and the claims of election fraud, they created the Federal Election Commission. The Federal Election Commission is the most popular government project in Mexico. People really like it and people really trust it, Desmond. So because of that, it is super effective. And it has helped their democracy significantly. Foreign policies. They are trying to stop being dependent on foreign goods. That's their big problem. Okay, They are in NAFTA, which you have to know, but NAFTA's been replaced by USMCA. You need to know that for your test. You need to know they are a member of NAFTA, but NAFTA was repealed by what president, Ethan? Trump repealed it and created the USMCA, or US-Mexico-Canada Trade Agreement. You need to know that they are a part of the United Nations, and they are huge benefactors of World Trade Organization and World Bank. Every other country has had access to it. Mexico is the first country to really, really benefit from World Bank, IMF, and WTO. With that money that they've gotten from those three agencies, what did they build, Caitlin? What fancy Spanish word have they built tons of in north of Mexico? That's okay, I don't either, so do the best you can. There's no judgment here. I change the way I say it every time. Well, we have to do a little bit better than that, right, Caitlin? Sophia? Maquiladoras. They are all paid for by the World Bank, World Trade. There's only one other country who uses it more than them, and who is it, Sophia? Nigeria benefits more, but only slightly more than Mexico. Okay, you need to know that the drug cartels are making the Mexican officials' lives miserable from drugs and drug trafficking and human trafficking and all the things. There you go. There's Mexico. Let's go to Nigeria. Okay, Nigeria is our final country. Okay, you need to know it is the closest to the American structure. So if you know nothing else, use your AP US Gov in order to try to deduce how to go through Nigeria. You need to know everything in Nigeria comes back to pre-Bendelism. What is pre-Bendelism, Luke? It's literally the everything to it. What is it, Jack?
It's all about giving back to your tribe.
Yes, it is all about the tribe. So, in China and in Russia, we have that nuclear meta, yes? That taking care of your people, of loyalty to the people, right? The more loyalty you show me, the more loyalty I'll show you. In Nigeria, it's all pre-Bendelism. It is your tribe over everything else. So if you're a government job, you steal a little money from the government in order to give it to your, okay, everything. Tribe over everything. You need to know that it is an unstable democracy or a fragile democracy. What does that term mean, Ford?
That tries to follow democratic policies, but it's not always.
Okay, and fragile one, what does that mean?
It's corrupt, so it's not.
It's not corrupt. Okay, there's huge corruption. Please do not confuse me by me saying there's no corruption. What's the problem, Caitlin? Okay, that's usually an example in Nigeria. What are they really worried about? What are they really worried about, Katie? What's the big threat in Nigeria? Because remember, on our fourth republic, so 3 of them have failed. What's the big existential threat to Nigerian governments? No. Reagan? Military coup. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a military coup that is the biggest threat. You need to know that Nigeria gained its independence in 1960. However, the 4th Republic, which is what we're currently in, begins in what year, Luke? There's only 2 years you need to know for APComp. You have a 50-50. What is it? 1999? Okay. 1999 is when the Fourth Republic began. You need to know it is the largest population in Africa. You need to know it's the largest economy in Africa. You also need to know it has the strongest military in Africa. It also has the curse of oil, so it is a rentier state. What conflict, Brooklyn, does oil become a huge problem in Nigeria for? It happens from 1972 to 1981. 2 million people will die. Starts with a B.
I don't know, but they rebelled and
It's a civil war. What is it, Desmond?
I was going to say,
It's the Biafran Civil War. Write it down. It is over oil rights and who has access to it. Does it go to the whole country or is it just one region? Look over here. So this is the issue with Nigeria. There are 5 major tribes. These are the question we ask about Nigeria. Should it be a country because it's so diverse? Yes? To the north, and you need to make this note. To the north, you have the Hausa Fulani. They are Islamic. They're in the jungle. Okay? Very little economic stability. What terrorist group exists here, Emerson? Boko Haram live here. They hide here. Okay, down south. This is where the economy is bustling, the good agricultural land, and the major cities are in existence. You have the Yoruba and the Igbo. Those are the 2 major tribes down there, constantly in conflict. You need to know that it is the most diverse population for all of our cities, for all of our countries. Okay? We are almost done. You need to know there is tons of corruption because of prebendalism. You need to know that there is a Christian versus Muslim component. You need to know who do they gain their independence from? Who do they gain their independence from, Riley? The UK. You do need to know. And Nigeria will start under a parliamentary system in 1960, but present day, it's now a presidential system because of all the military coups. It's easier to stream back into a democracy because of it. And it's a unitary system. Those are the big things. They have a bicameral legislature. They have a president. And military coups are the biggest threat. Oh, one last thing. You need to know that Nigeria uses World Bank and International Monetary Fund to get out of debt. So they are the biggest benefactor of these financial organizations because of their ability to bail themselves out of debt. So Nigeria benefits the most from these institutions. Mexico is second. UK has never used them, but runs it because they have plenty of money. Okay? Russia and Iran cannot get access to them because they've been banned because of, shitty behavior. And then China is not preferred by them. There you go.
Ignore China.
Ignore. Hi, friend! What do you do? Oh, yeah, you told me you were going to be here.